Let me introduce him. He's Lamar Lackey. He has a movement of KnowJeffco, not
KNOW.
Yes. And he was here to speak about his feelings and the movement, and you have the floor.
Well, first of all, my background is investment banking and venture capital with a specialization or concentration in doing startups and turnarounds. I'm retired, so I have no capitalistic agenda with me being here. It is because of my background that I am standing here, and the fact that I had considered the possibility of running for commission, which embarked me to learn more about Jefferson County, to learn more about what is wrong with Jefferson County, and to get more of an understanding of things and how they work in Jefferson County, which ultimately led me to Kathy Burleson, which ultimately led me to Kevin. And Kevin and I started a dialogue many months ago. Obviously, as you well know, I did not run for commission, and therefore I did not win. However, it is the principles by which I operated as a capitalist that I feel are missing in Jefferson County, for example. To me, the employees are the biggest asset of this county. And you're also the one asset that's not been tapped into. The commissioners of past and arguably in the present have not, in my opinion, engaged you to the extent to find out really what's wrong. Senator Everett Dickerson said one time, "There's no force so powerful as an idea whose time has come." And I feel that it is now time for the employees to speak, to let your opinion be out there relative to what's going on. And that was one of the things that I always found when I went into a company that was in trouble. Talking to management didn't give me a lot of insight. It gave me some, but most of the insight I got was from the lowest level employees, those who were on the floor, if it was a manufacturing firm, those who were in the trenches, if you will. And that's where I found where a lot of times where rubber and road and inefficiencies were. So as a result, Kevin and I have had an ongoing line of communication and dialogue. And one of my biggest things, if you will, relative with KnowJeffco, has centered around the county attorney's office. And I'll go into that a little bit later on. But the main thing is that KnowJeffco, in I believe it was June, put out a proposed organizational structure for the new commission to adopt. And the commission, as it exists today, is something that the Founding Fathers did not want. The Founding Fathers had a separation of powers, meaning they separated the legislative from the executive branch so as not to put the two together. When the two together, you have arguably a dictatorship. And as a result, you don't have oversight. And in Jefferson County, that oversight arguably doesn't exist because you have the ability for those who are implementing policy and running the operation, creating the policies. And that's very dangerous. And hence, you can kind of see as a result of that where this county has gotten and where it is today. Orlando Batista said, "An error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it." Jefferson County has made many mistakes. It's done a lot of lip service to try to convince you that it's changed things or is doing things, but rubber and road have not met. Sometimes you only have one chance, one opportunity to get it done, and arguably this is where it is today. We're kind of in the last stages of everything. The occupational tax has been repealed. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but we have a patient, the county, that is extremely, extremely anemic and is on life support. I have never been an advocate of cutting the human element, meaning most situations I walked into, money had to be saved. Spending had to be cut. But I never, ever, on the front end of an equation, looked at cutting the human element. Believe it or not, I did have a heart, okay?
So you never worked for local government?
Well, the problem that is missing in government, the people's business, is in fact that it's not run like a business. Mm-hmm. And that goes to the heart of the problem. I am in the process of forming a foundation. And the pillars of the foundation are fiscal, social, and physical accountability and responsibility. And that sums me up in a heartbeat, if you will. Now, going to the fiscal part of it, I'm a big advocate of recycle and reuse, buy used, not buy new, to sum it up, if you will. And the best way that I can describe this is to give an example of a conversation I had with the sheriff. And I'm sorry to have my back to you.
No, you're fine.
The sheriff has done a tremendous job with the budget cuts that he's had to deal with. And at his swearing in, Mike and I had a conversation. I knew he was recycling the engines in his, or rebuilding rather, the engines in his automobiles and his police cruisers. Problem is he can only do that one generation. He can only do it one time. You can't just keep doing it. But my position to Mike was that at the point in time he needs to retire that rebuilt police cruiser, that doesn't mean that that car has lost value as transportation. And my position to Mike was, why don't you turn it into the county and let it be retrofitted, so forth, and used as transportation? Mike's reply to that was he never thought of that. So as a result, that's where I come from, is recycling things that we have and reusing what we have, and use it to the very end. I'm going to give you an example of that in my personal life. I really hate to spend money. But when I do, I spend it big. We had a big screen TV. When it died, we got a big, gigantic wall-mounted thing. And I will use that until the day it dies, and then I'll get the next greatest thing. But I don't just go get the next greatest thing because the next greatest thing is there. So I'm not hypocritical in the way that I speak to you folks. I've always been a big fan and advocate of never buying something new when I could get it used. Another area of where I was very effective in business was in centralization of processes, centralization of spending, for example. Everybody came in here, and I don't think I see two pens at this table that are the same pens. In this county, you could walk down the hallway, go into every office, and you're going to see every kind of pen known to man. I'm a big fan of the Henry Ford approach. You can have that car in any color you want as long as it's black. Now, I'm talking about pennies here. I'm talking about nickels and dimes. But you know what? Those pennies, those nickels, those dimes, they add up. They add up to quarters, and then all those quarters add up to dollars. You know, a single parking meter just takes nickels, dimes, and quarters, but do you realize that to the city of Birmingham, for example, those parking meters as a collective network is a noticeable blip on the revenue stream of the city of Birmingham? It is. It adds up. And as a result, it's those things that, in my opinion, are not being looked at in the county. If we were to take all the pins, come up to a consensus of one black pin, one blue pin, figure out how many we need throughout the whole county, and then you negotiate based on that lump sum number. Now, that's not a large dollar savings, but you know what? When you tack that on to doing the same thing with legal pads, there are two kinds of legal pads, in case y'all don't know. And I'm not trying to be condescending to anybody, but there are two kinds of legal pads, 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14. Now, I know that Kathy brought in a little portfolio that's letter size. I have a portfolio that's legal size. So I recognize that some people, that there are two different kinds. But do you know how many brands and different kinds of legal pads beyond that there are? You got yellow paper, you got white paper, you got this brand, you got that brand. Get it down, two kinds. A letter size, a legal size. You figure out how many you need throughout the whole county as a whole, and you negotiate that lump sum number. That's not being done. Same thing applies to copy paper. Same thing applies to anything goods and services. Even down to the toner used in printers and copiers. But that's not being done. And so as a result, we have a hose and we got little bleeders, little pinprick bleeders in that, and the water squirts out. But we need more water coming out the end, so what's the solution? We're going to force more water through the hose. That's not how it works in business. And so as a result, one of the things that the commission wants to do, well, we got to cut money, so, we probably need to start looking at the employees. And I just feel that's the last thing that needs to be looked at. Because we haven't looked inside first and foremost. Let me tell you something else I'm a big advocate of. I'm a big advocate of using interns and college classes. The county wanted to spend $50,000 for the purpose of a turnaround firm to come tell the county what to do.